Today's video, I'm diving deeper into the topic of self-sabotage. Hi, I'm Casey Lepper, and I help you overcome anything that gets in the way of creating the life you want. I have a perspective of mind, body, soul, and spirit wellness, and through that lens, I help you get over anything that stands in the way of creating a better life. If you haven't already, I have another video linked here where I go into some primary ways that self-sabotaging comes up. So the specific actions and behaviors that come in that tells us we are in a cycle of self-sabotage. And so this video is really about diving deeper into ways to overcome it. So this is so important because if you're watching this video, you want to heal, you want to improve, you want to be able to align in all ways, which means we have to have great awareness about how we subconsciously or consciously stop us from progressing in the pursuit of our own dreams. Self-sabotaging is really any thought pattern, any belief, any action that keeps us inside our box. And so inside our box is safe. It's known. And anytime we're wanting to push into a dream or an extraordinary life, we have to move outside of the box. So the strength and the ability and the courage to get from the known to the unknown is going to make the subconscious and the minds come up and throw anything it can at us to stop us from leaving the safety of the box. So this isn't a bad thing. It is just a mechanism that is going to limit us from actually reaching our potential. And so I'm going to give you 4 ways to uncover and overcome your self-sabotaging behaviors. So first, it's identify your core fears. Underneath every self-sabotaging behavior is a fear. And when you know what that fear is, you're going to have a lot more awareness and understanding about how that behavior is guided. So in other words, if you have a fear of abandonment, of success, of failure, of judgment, of disappointment, you're going to notice certain thought patterns and certain beliefs come in. So for example, if I grew up with a parent who was really, really financially successful, but because they were so successful, that meant that they were working all the time and I didn't get a great sense of connection from them. I felt lost or disconnected or even abandoned from them. So I might think people who are successful can't be good parents. And so I might think I have to choose between making a lot of money and being a really good parent. Now, if I decide I want to make a lot of money and that's one of my initial goals, if I start getting a feeling of I want to be a parent, then I'm going to have a dissonance within myself. And so I see this happen with so many people where they think they have to choose one or the other, but it's really based on this belief system and this fear that happened earlier on in their life. So I might stop myself from wanting to have children, from finding a really good person who I know is going to be a good parent, diving into anything that is connecting to my desire of parenthood because I think I am going to lose my identity as being an abundant or successful person. So there's so many ways that that fear can come up for us. And so being able to distill what's the core fear, understand what the core fear is. And one thing I like to do with the clients that I work with is list all the fears connected to that core one. What are the thoughts that are connected to that core one? What are all the beliefs connected to the core? And then from there, you ask, are any of these changeable? And so what you're really getting at is this a fact or is this just an old belief system that I need to challenge? So the first step in overcoming self-sabotaging behaviors is to identify your core fears. Next, you want to be able to recognize what your patterns are. So I mentioned this in the last video more in depth. It's procrastination. It's negative self-talk. It's distraction, disorganization, judging others. Any behavior and pattern that's stopping you from putting action towards what you want to do, action towards a known desire is that pattern. And when you recognize that pattern, and especially recognize the primary ones that come up for you, and you connect that pattern to that core, then you create awareness of how it's going to come up. And the best thing about this is once you're aware, you know it's probably going to pop up in many different ways. So I know the first thing that's going to stop me is my idea of wanting to do something perfectly. So I already know that with these YouTube videos, if my phone's ringing on the background and part of my mind is trying to tell me just stop and restart, another part of my mind, my higher self is saying, it's okay. It does not have to be perfect. Being able to know the primary ways and the patterns that you stop yourself, really helpful. And then being able to connect it to that fear, you have that understanding, and in the future, when I'm seeking something more from where I am, when I'm stepping outside my box into something unknown, what's going to come up for me? This fear, this fear, this fear, this behavior, this pattern, this behavior. The third piece is when you connect the fears and the patterns, you can start to challenge those belief systems. You can start to ask yourself, what is a better feeling thought? What is a better belief system that's actually going to help pave my way so this is easier in the future? Think about that box example. If you're going into the unknown and you're seeking more, you have to build the bridge. And it's easier to build that bridge when, as you're moving forward and getting out of the box, you're recognizing, challenging, and overturning the belief systems that no longer work. This is a practice and a mental exercise. So for me, things don't have to be perfect to be valuable. That is the mantra that I can continue to say to myself when I'm doing something that's outside my comfort zone. So from the first piece of identifying core fears, the second piece, knowing your patterns, and this third piece, reframing and rewriting your belief systems, you can really start to feel the change in energy when you're starting to think something that's actually supportive of you building, evolving, and expanding. The current that I think underscores all three of those steps is self-compassion. So be light with yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. If you're a perfectionist and then you're starting to heal and you're starting to do this work of rewiring your subconscious and growing, and then you're hard on yourself about not doing it right, that's a trap. And that's one that I've found myself in and so many clients I work with. So be compassionate. Know that this takes practice. How many years have you been doing it one way? So don't expect overnight it to happen. But if you create necessary structure and accountability, you can change the patterning. It just takes time. So if you're continuing to be really critical about your progression within self-sabotaging, then to be totally honest, you're just repeating the cycle, dressing it up in a different way. So be really, really clear about where you're not giving yourself grace, kindness, and compassion, and open your heart to yourself. The final piece is to be able to sit in discomfort and understand that all growth is uncomfortable. They call it growing pains for a reason. When you're growing, you're expanding. And that expansion is pressing up against the current structure of our capability and our mindset. And so it's going to be uncomfortable. And you know that you're doing the work when you've felt uncomfortable. So I've said on here, I think several times, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's how you know that you're actually growing. When you're getting away from the mind and sinking into the heart, you're going to feel a little bit more steady in the discomfort. And so identify your core fears. Understand your particular self-sabotaging patterns. Start to challenge your belief systems and assumptions that feed those patterns. Have self-compassion and be really comfortable in discomfort. All of those things together will help anyone overcome some of the ways that we inevitably block ourselves. And I go into that pattern all the time thinking, in my next iteration and my next evolution, be really, really clear about how I'm going to continue to stop myself. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you don't subscribe already, please do. We post 2 videos every week, different topics that help you flow and align your mind, body, spirit, and soul.